Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pathways to Perform. We hope these real stories from real people resonate to help guide you on your path to perform at your very best in any field. Today's guest is an extraordinary woman. She has reached almost every facet of the performing arts industry. She has performed on Broadway, film, and television. In addition to that, for 10 years, she was a Radio City Rockette. Now she is currently thriving as a TV host for the show Made in Hollywood. This show reaches over 100 million homes per week. She has interviewed some famous folks that you may have heard of before. These names include Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, Julia Roberts, Denzel Washington. The list is endless. Please welcome the fabulous and absolutely gorgeous Julie Harkness Arnold.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Look at you go, girl. I love it. You're rocking it.
You're awesome. So it's easy.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course. I'm excited to be here. I am excited to honestly, I miss you. I wish we could just grab tea and coffee. We may just have to do it over Zoom because it is such a joy to just touch base and just connect with you.
Well, it's an honor for me, of course. For those of you that don't know, and for our listeners, Jules was a tremendous mentor and role model for me when I attended Point Park University. She changed my life, helped me in every way, professionally and personally. So this is going to be just an honor and pleasure to be talking with you today in so many ways. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I adore you. I love every ounce of all of you. Yes.
Well, I feel the same about you. I talked to you a little bit about the purpose of this program and the show, and I really want young adults to understand that anything is possible. I think we should start at the beginning, of course, because there's just so many different things that you've done. But, most people start dancing at a young age and kind of go through that kind of process to find their way. And so my first question for you is really like, did you start dancing at the age of 3? Did you always know performing arts was your thing?
Yeah, so I don't think, Kiesha, there's going to be anything about this conversation that's traditional. So I did not start dancing at age 3. I was a very, very light starter. I didn't start until 10 years later, till about the age of 13. Actually, I took my first dance class at 13, but I started training at 14. But the moment I started training, like really dancing and technique class and ballet every day, the moment I started that, I never stopped. Like that was it. That was the trajectory. So I always have this little story. When I was in kindergarten, the teacher went around and was asking everybody what they wanted to be when they grew up. And all the boys said firemen, police officers, or doctors. And all the girls, I know this dates me a little bit, all the girls said teachers or nurses, which this dates me a little bit.
No, but I'm the same age. And so looking back on that, that was kind of the traditional path.
Yeah, that's what they were thinking. And at the time, my dad was a sportscaster on TV, and I would see him on TV. So I thought I want to do something like be on TV. I want to be on TV. And I'm like, who are those people who are on TV? Oh, those are actresses. So when she came around to me, she goes, what do you want to be? I'm like, an actress. So I remember saying that, and it kind of like planted a seed. It kind of burst that little momentum of a seed into the universe. And that was something I heard myself say, and I think it planted a seed inside me. But no, I didn't start dancing when I was 3.
I love that. And so when did you first start studying dance? When did you then, expose yourself to that kind of avenue?
So I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, with Jennifer Cliffinger-Dudick.
Hi, Clip.
Yeah, we're still the ride and dies. We're still the very, very best friends. So I grew up in Indianapolis, and around the corner from me was Butler University, which had a dance program called Jordan Dance Academy. And that program, I just knew I wanted to get into acting, but my whole life was academics and sports. The moment you started dancing at Jordan Dance Academy, you were literally training. You were training and you were in technique classes, you were in ballet. Modern was very hard. jazz. So it was where I needed to be. And once I started, I couldn't stop. I was in all their programs and doing it all the time. I literally was bitten the first time I took a dance class. Bitten. I was like, I'm in love. This is what I want to do.
Oh, I love that. And that happens to a lot of people. You do it and you just know.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a knowing. There was a knowing for sure. Matter of fact, I remember what I wore to my first dance class. It was horrendous. It was like a pastel glistening pink 1980 leotard with glistening, the white kind of tights that that make your thighs look this big because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like not matte, they're like glistening.
Yes. Yes.
And I remember coming home, I had my pink leg warmers and dancing in my room because I was so exhilarated that I knew in my heart I had found my passion.
Okay. That is so fun because in the 80s, everything was glistening.
Yeah.
It's just,
For
oh,
real.
it's so great. It's
Yeah.
so reflective of the times. And so you're studying at the Jordan Academy. And
Mhm.
what was the transition in which you actually wanted to then pursue this in college? A lot of people just dance for recreational purposes, but then
Right.
you pursued higher education and actually, kind of chase that career.
Right. That's a great question. One, again, I grew up in Indianapolis, so this is the traditional part of my story. Everybody went to college, and I remember I remember being surrounded by college applications. And I remember my father was telling me that, we knew some people at Notre Dame if I wanted to go on and pursue an academic based education and then become a lawyer. This would be a great trajectory for me. And then also, and I was like, well, I do also like psychology. So I was surrounded by all these brochures and academics. And I finally just stopped and I said, what do I want to do? Like, what is my love? Like, what do I really want to do? And I wanted to dance. I knew it. I knew I wanted to dance. And I had to commend my parents because they were like, then do it. Whatever, get a college degree. We don't care what it's in. We just want you to have a college degree so you will go study. And so I started talking to some of the people in my city that had danced professionally. And one of the guys, Jim Kennedy, he shared with us about Point Park. He's like, Point Park is a great college. And so you should go check that out. So Jen Clip and I checked out Point Park, and it is definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made. The year that I came in, there was not one Broadway show that didn't have a Point Park dancer in it. And I did Disney the summer before going into college. So it's the summer after I graduated from high school, summer before going into college, did Disney, then went to Point Park. And that summer, when I went down to Disney to Florida, there were so many Point Parkians that I just had a new family already before I even stepped foot onto campus. It was extraordinary.
Looking back at your days then, so you decide to apply to Point Park and you get in. And so what was your college experience like? And did it prepare you for the real world industry?
Well, you know what my college experience was like.
We
You
were
were right
together.
there. You're right there with me. Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Yeah.
To this day, I tell my daughters, your college years will probably be some of your best years. I don't, it's your college year, everybody there becomes your family. And I hope that other performers and dancers who are doing the program now, I hope they embrace perhaps putting down the cell phone and looking around them and realizing that the people that are around them will hire them one day, and or you will hire them one day. Like that is like your network and your launching board. I remember, like, I have so many stories about dancers that I've never even worked with, but they were from Point Park and they knew my name, and they have referred me, like Eileen Grace, like has referred me for a job before I even met her. And I remember like referring people for jobs. I'm like, I know someone who went to my school. He graduated after me. But I never worked with him. And you refer them for a job because you know that they graduated from Point Park. They have a work ethic. They have a work ethic, and they're not going to let you down. And they're going to go out and do the job. I always say that there's things that you know that you went to Point Park. And one of my things is if you set your alarm for 5 minutes because you're so tired, you need to take a 5 minute nap. I remember like setting my alarm, like people saying that, like you're always working, you're always going, you have rehearsal, you have your academics, you need to grab food real quick, you need to get back to rehearsal, and you're juggling all of this stuff. And then sometimes you're like, I just need a 5 minute nap. And I remember setting my alarm for 5 minutes. And when I woke up, I'm like, okay, that was 5 minutes, and you're off again. But I loved it. I loved every ounce of my college experience in my college years. And I also appreciated and enjoyed meeting other people from all over, because I really believe that was my first time meeting people that I didn't know. I thought it was a little bit more cultured and worldly growing up in Indianapolis, but it wasn't until college meeting people that were not like me, and they're your best friends and they're your dorm mates from across the hall. You're on the same hallway, so you are sharing food and drinks and hanging out. And so I think that's another side of the experience that I loved as well.
And I feel like for me too, that was probably the most valuable, was just meeting different kinds of people from different places and environments and cultures from all over the world, and
Yeah.
having that one similar interest that brought us together. And again, just kind of circling back to the idea of family, but made us family. And
Yes.
it's never, those bonds have never broken, which is
Yeah.
so special.
Yeah.
And so during your college years, did you have any like special memory, one dynamic memory that stays with you, one of your favorites of all time? There's probably
Oh
so
my
many.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
There's so many.
I know. I'm like, yeah. Some of the things I remember going to Chauncey's on Thursday nights and dancing. You're like, I don't need those kind of experience.
No, that's an experience that counts.
Because
Because
it
you
was
know
an
what?
experience, all right.
Well, and you know what I think is that was an escape for us. We were trained
Yeah.
technically, technique, discipline, focus, discipline, focus, discipline, focus. So
Yes.
going out to this, club and just dancing and taking over the entire space.
Oh, taking it over and dancing the night away. And you're just like that free abandonment. There's something for it. There's something for
Yes,
it
there's a
because you're
sense of
literally
freedom.
exhausted. And then
Yes.
you just go and you take it to another level. You're just like, ah. Yeah. And walking over the bridge back and forth. And you're going to be safe because there's like 50 other college students walking with you.
Everybody's walking
So,
with you, but not with you. You're just in your little groups
but not with you.
versus a big
Yeah.
herd of
Yes.
people. There was an element of safety and security there. You are correct.
Yes.
Ah,
Completely.
that's amazing. I love that story because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So during your time at Point Park, I mean, a lot of the focus was getting a job, right? Landing that gig afterwards. For me, I
Yes.
remember walking into class one day and nobody was there because everyone was shooting a film. And so you started
Amazing.
working while you were in school.
Yeah.
And what was
I
that
mean,
like?
Point Park, and that is so exceptional. The programming, like, do we take advantage or do we even realize like that we had that resource? So one thing I wanted to do while I was in college, I set a goal for myself my freshman year, is that I wanted to build my resume. I wanted to build credits. And so much was filming and shooting out of Pittsburgh. And we just happened, as in Point Park University, just happened to be the hub where people from New York, from all over the country would come and hold auditions. So you had people traveling in all over from Pennsylvania to come audition, and we just had to like do our makeup and roll out of bed, which we literally did. We would roll out of bed do some makeup, and go downstairs and audition. So we were really, really blessed and fortunate to do that. I was very committed to trying auditioning.
Mhm.
And I remember Gene Ryan, the cruise ships would come through freshman year. I auditioned for a job that went to Europe and I got it. So I got to spend my summers in Germany and England. And then my sophomore year, I filmed commercials. My junior year, I got West Virginia Playhouse. So I wanted to get my equity card. So I started building up my Broadway credits, my regional theater credits. And then my senior year is when Will Rogers Follies came to Point Park University and was auditioning, and we heard about it late, and I'm not sure who told us, but it was Jennifer Klippinger and Stephanie Lang and I, who we heard that there's this audition, and we got made up and we ran down to go to audition. They were like, "Oh, we're so sorry, it's all done." And we're like, "What?" But they looked at us and we were tall, and they were looking for tall dancers. And so we got a private audition. They were like, "Well, you guys come in, we're just gonna do some stuff." And then we were called back and flown to New York City to Broadway for a mass audition on Broadway. And that was nerve-wracking, scary, and my vocals were not up to par. And I did not get the job. I stayed there through the whole audition. And they said, work on your vocals, work on your vocals, work on your vocals. And they kept in touch with me, believe it or not, this show, Will Rogers Follies. And that was, I want to say, close to a year later. I received a phone call in April for another audition, and we were doing Pippin at Point Park. Remember that? And
I
we
do
were doing
remember that. One of my favorite productions that we've ever done.
extraordinary. I loved how we were all coming together. I was in the rehearsal process for that, and Maria Davison was understudying me. And I got a call to come back to New York to audition. And I auditioned, and they were like, "Well, there's someone on the traveling tour of Will Rogers Follies that needs a replacement. The tour needs a replacement. We'll let you know if you got the job." But they gave me my costumes from Broadway, from New York. So I'm carrying these costumes going, I don't know if I'm going to get the job or I'm going to have to get these costumes back. And I got the call that they're like, "Yeah, we need you to start tomorrow." And the show was I mean, this is how God works. This is how our business, the serendipity of how things work, the timing. The Broadway tour of Will Rogers Follies was performing in Pittsburgh at the time. So I went to New York to audition. I got the tour and I went back to my college, Pittsburgh, and that's where I joined up with the tour with the tour. So that was incredible. And I was replacing a girl who was injured, and I was only gone for 5 weeks. And then when I came back, I was able to come back to Point Park and graduate and finish off that last part of my senior year before I joined the tour again, before I went back and did it.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Serendipity. Serendipity.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I hear a lot about, a little bit of luck, so much talent. It's all about preparation. But for you to be able to go back and forth and then have that moment where you could graduate had to be so special for you as well.
Yes. That was very important to me. And it's definitely, I have to look back at again your work ethic, because I came back and I remember talking to Judith and talking to Ron and just saying to Son and saying, I want to graduate. Where are my grades now? And Judith was like, "Well, if you take my class every day, you can make up for your misses. And when you graduate, you will be at an A. But if you don't take it, you will be at a B." And of course, my determined, driven, dedicated, focused self, exhausted, took her dance class, her modern class every day, along with all my other classes, every single day to get my A.
That's right. You wanted
I
the
was like,
A.
"Oh, that's
Overachiever.
right.
I want the A. I've done the
I
work. I
want the
want it.
A."
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
That's
so
yeah.
much, it circles back to that work ethic thing. You have to
Mhm.
have a disciplined work ethic to be able to succeed in any career. It's so
Yes.
important. It's so
Yes.
important. So, how did you transition and when did the audition come about for the Rockettes?
Mhm. So I was touring with, I was on the road with Will Rogers, and oh no, I was back in New York, and I had only been back for a month, and the Radio City Rockettes were holding auditions, and so I was going to every open call, every um, any audition that I was right for, I went to it, including the Rockettes. And the Rockettes to this day was the hardest audition I ever did. It was about 3 days long. You had to be well versed in every style of dance, including you had to be well versed in tapping, all every style of dance. We did it all. We did ballet, jazz, and we learned extensive and long numbers. And then you had to, if you got called back, you had to sing. They even had a interviewing portion of it, like where they interviewed you. They did a mock interview to see how you present yourself on camera, if you knew how to, string together a few words to get a cohesive thought across. So that was a very long, extensive, hard audition. There was about 300 ladies auditioned the day that I auditioned, and six got the job, six of us.
Wow. And so
Right.
10 years with the Rockettes.
Yes.
How did you keep it fresh and exciting after 10 years? That's always a
I don't,
question
oh
that
yeah,
people
you know
have,
what? Yes. So I was really, really, really blessed and fortunate, lucky, in the regards that I didn't do consecutive Christmas shows. So what I did do for the Rockettes was, I was their top, oh gosh, what do you I just lost my train of thought. Um their top person who did promotional work. So I was their person who went out and was like the face of the Radio City Rockettes, and I did a lot of interviews for them. I would travel to different states and different cities, and I would do teach classes for the Rockettes when we weren't in season. And I did a lot of promotional work for them. So I did a lot of photo shoots. I did a lot of waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing the weather with Al Roker in New York. I did the morning shows for across our country. Like if I was in Rhode Island, I would do their local morning show and interview saying the Rockettes are coming to audition, and we're also doing Christmas shows outside of New York, and I would go and promote those Christmas shows as well. So I had started to parlay my dance career into doing promotional work for the Rockettes. So I think that's where it started to linger in. But I
That's
did the Christmas show quite often as well.
and I mean, that
Whew.
was my next question. Did you feel that these on-air performances and interviews and kind of I don't know, it's a whole different thing, right? It's a whole different practice, a whole different strategy, and your approach to it is different than live stage. Do you feel that those experiences really prepared you to kind of evolve and shift to TV?
I do feel that my promotional interview work and working with dancers across the country, like when they would go to audition for the Rockettes and teaching master classes, definitely created this sense of hosting, actually, hosting and doing television and feeling comfortable, because I did have to speak on, like, be on top of my feet, be on top of my game, and be present.
Mhm. And it's a different kind of practice and process, but you're so dynamic and so charming. You have all the things. And so, you kind of invite us in. Your energy is infectious and you definitely,
Hmm.
I mean, you could carry the stage, so I know you can carry the screen.
Oh, thank you. Wow.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
exciting. And, now you're in LA and you're working on this show. And what is it like? I mean, what is that experience like to walk in and you have these on air interviews? Do you love it?
Okay, so yes, I I'm trying. I'm literally you're having me go down memory lane, and I'm not quite sure.
The
I'm like
timeline.
connecting.
That's
Yes,
right.
the timeline. So I was touring actually with Jimmy Buffett and with the Rockettes.
I
I
forgot about the Jimmy
yes.
Buffett tour. I forgot
So
about
I
that.
Girl, it's crazy to go from the Rockettes where you're in a
Yeah.
regimen where you have to dance like one dancer and it's extremely strict. It's actually hard work.
Mhm.
And then I got to tour with Jimmy Buffett. It was myself and one other dancer. And now I'm flying on private jets. We are living, I mean, the life. We were staying at the best hotels. We were just spoiled. We would go get spa treatments and put it on Jimmy's. We're like, just put it on Jimmy's bill. Because it was like 40 men. And this is another thing. There was like 40 men. Between our crew and between the band men, and there was only 5 females. There was 2 dancers and a background singer and 2 background singers and a saxophone player. So it was very male heavy. But that was another aspect of my life where I was able to take musical theater and my Broadway and all my dancing that I did, and then perform still in another genre of dancing, which was such a highlight because I got to again travel and see the world, and that was fantastic. So somewhere in all that, I was still doing promotional work with Rockettes. I had moved to LA to really start doing commercials and looking into hosting, because with doing the promotional work with Rockettes, I was used to being the one interviewed, and I kind of wanted to flip the bill and start interviewing myself. I got a commercial agent, a theatrical agent, and a host agent being out here. And I was lucky because a lot of people were enamored with the fact that I was a Rockette, one of the first African American Rockettes. And so I was able to get an agent, which is pretty difficult. And also, I would put on there that my college years and building my resume while I was in college was key, because I had something to offer when I did walk in to get an agent in Los Angeles. So my agent submitted me and sent me out on a lot of auditions. Some I booked, some I did not. And the way I got the job that I'm doing now, the Made in Hollywood on air reporter as a host, is not your traditional way. There's a thing called the Black Film Festival, Hollywood Black Film Festival. I would go every year to study the different types of films. When I was at Point Park, I not only studied dance. Dance was my number one discipline, but I also studied acting and musical theater. And I would go study the movies. So I was at the Hollywood Black Film Festivals. I was studying the movies. They had a panel at the end of different producers, and one of the guys, a producer there, I walked up and I introduced myself. We started a conversation. He is the executive producer and owner of the show Made in Hollywood and Made in Hollywood Teen Edition, and we became friends. And I would say, I Kiesha, I want to say honestly, 10 years later, after I had met him, we hadn't even kept in touch. And this is another crazy story. I'm going to just throw this in there real quick. I would send out email blasts to people saying, "Oh, this is what I'm doing now. Oh, this is what I'm doing now." And I guess I would just send it to everybody. I had no idea I was emailing him. So I hadn't talked to him for about like 10 years, but he was getting my email. So he thought I was keeping in touch with him. I didn't have a clue. And one day he reached out. He's like, "I think you would be perfect for this." And I had just had a baby. And that's another thing. You get it in your mind if you've had kids. I had it in my mind that I'm now married, I have kids, and I don't think anybody's going to really want me now. But anyway, I had a 2-month-old baby. I had told him, "I have a 2-month-old baby. I'm nursing. I'm not at my best weight." We met because I still think you would be great. And it started. My first interview was with Morgan Freeman. And it's great. I get to screen movies, and then I interview the writers, directors, and actors of those movies.
Sounds like a dream job. And
It's
Morgan
awesome.
Freeman first.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's nerve-wracking. That's nerve-wracking.
I would imagine he'd be so inviting and welcoming, though. And make you
He
feel
was
calm.
amazing.
Right.
Yeah, he's hilarious. Now, I mean, obviously my daughter is 13 now, so that was 13 years ago. So whenever I interviewed him, and it's been several times, he's just hilarious. He's very hilarious.
That's
He's
great.
fun. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm looking back at all these amazing adventures and experiences, jobs, gigs, but
Hmm.
I feel as if you've always, in this conversation, I'm realizing that you've always kind of kept in touch with all the different facets of the industry. As much as
Hmm.
you were a Rockette, you were paying attention to film, or Broadway was this, but you were looking at this audition over here. Concert dance is almost how we were programmed at Point Park in so many ways, but then
Hmm.
you were looking at Broadway. And so, is it important to understand every aspect of an industry that you go into?
I say 100%, like being open to wherever it's going to lead you. That's the fun part. So even in college, I was dancing, but I also realized that I did want to do Broadway. I knew a lot of Point Parkians were successful on Broadway, so I started to take acting at Point Park. I started to do musical theater classes at Point Park. I started to do private vocal lessons through Point Park. So staying open to wherever it takes you is really important. I remember I started writing for Dance Spirit magazine right before I started doing my Made in Hollywood job. I was writing for Dance Spirit magazine. And you never know how you are going to get your next gig, your next job. So the way I started writing for Dance Spirit magazine wasn't that I went in and did a formal interview with Dance Spirit. It was like from a friend of a friend. It was a Rockette friend. It was her roommate who is now the editor in New York, and they needed an LA person. Jules just moved to LA. Is she interested? And I remember in high school, like when I was taking English class, my teacher was like, "We're all writers. We're all writers." My math class, they were like, "You're all mathematicians. You're all mathematicians." So I'm like, "Of course I can write. Of course, I graduated from college. Of course I can write for Dance Spirit magazine." So one of my mantras was just say yes and commit to it and go for it, because you just don't know where that's going to lead you and or how it's going to set you up for your next job.
It's so important to stay open because you just don't
Hmm.
know. Just because you're a dance major doesn't mean you can't write or host a show. And the
Yes.
industry now, there's so much crossover, which is so exciting. And again, I love what you're saying. Just be open to it. I love that.
Yes, completely. Because you don't know where it's going to take you. And work begets works. Because sometimes you may be offered a job that is not at your paying rate. But there's been a million times that I was rehearsal directing for a friend with his show on Ballet Magique, A.G. Johnson, who actually went to Point Park. And then I'm touring with Jimmy Buffett and flying around in private jets. And then I'm writing for Dance Spirit magazine. But none of those you would ever know which was paying me the most money, because I was committed, I would show up, and I had a love for all of it. Like this job wasn't paying me anything, but you would never know. And this one was paying me a gazillion dollars, and you would never know. Like just be present, be present.
Well,
And
and
that also, oh, go ahead. I'm
no, I
sorry.
was going to say, you're clearly, from the minute I've met you, a woman of integrity. You would never do anything at 40%. It didn't matter. It wasn't about that. It was about putting your best foot forward and with integrity. That's who you
Oh,
are.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to share my husband was a nurse. And when I met him, and I knew like his heart was stand-up comedy, and he became a nurse, he supervisor. And I would tell him, like, you're supervising all these employees right now, but that's just God's way of teaching you how to direct, like direct a movie. And that's some of the stuff that he's doing now as well. So like God may put you over here to do this, but you're learning these skills too. Like my
Yeah.
Dance Spirit Writings magazine helped me host a show.
Well, and it's exposing yourself to every opportunity so you can then expand upon that because these skills all translate to something else. And
Yes.
so that's exciting. Like you said, that's the fun part. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So beyond the arts, I mean, I know you
Mhm.
have this amazing, beautiful family that means the world to you. What are your current interests? What do you do to keep yourself happy? Right? It's crazy. And there's work is more
Crazy.
demanding of all of us now. And
Yeah.
you're a mom, you're a wife, you've got this ginormous career. What do you do? Like, what are your interests outside so you don't lose your mind?
Right. I am committed to raising these teens to be true young ladies, and that is very challenging. So, y- I I'm a part of a different like. There's this group called Jack and Jill of America, and it's a group of successful African American moms who get together and we try to get programming for our children, so our children have great opportunities in life. And I'm surrounded by these incredible women that I'm actually learning from. I do meditation. Um, right now, what we're doing is because of COVID, like I'm not working a lot through Made in Hollywood. So I went through 13 years of covering movies, sometimes 6 movies a day, and traveling around to Canada, to England, and screening these movies. And then all of a sudden, I literally got back from filming shooting one of our shows, and it was on location. And I flew in, and the next day, like I was exhausted, but I came home and they were like, the schools are going to be shut down tomorrow. They're shutting down schools. Literally happened overnight. So not doing that every day opened the door once again to new opportunities and possibilities. And so my husband is a stand-up comedian and a television writer and producer. And so he looked at me, a show that he was producing, they had to stop filming, and he's like, right now all we have is our Instagram. That's what's going to be bringing in money. And I'm like, I was never crazy about filming the videos with my husband. They are always getting in my way. I'm like just waking up and he puts the camera, the cell phone on us. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But when you hear that's your only income, you kind of step into it. You're like, okay, well, let me wake up and put lip gloss on.
You do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do. However, that started, I don't know, that we got this surge of people calling to for my husband to create shows, and I like writing. I've written a couple of scripts, so I've just started creating shows with him, and we sold like 5 different shows to Netflix, to Nickelodeon, to Amazon, to Apple TV, and to OWN. And my husband just got greenlit for the Nickelodeon show. We hope the other shows get greenlit. And so right now I'm kind of writing, producing television shows,
I'm so proud of
which
you.
is a lot of work,
It's
but
a
it's
lot of work.
very exciting. And I take everything that I've done with my dance career and just shift it into now I am a producer. Of course, I'm a producer. I've always been a producer. I've
Right.
always been a producer. If you graduated from Point Park, especially from the dance department, you are a producer.
You can do anything.
You could do
It
anything,
really is just taking
anything.
every experience and then
Yes,
applying it to what you want to do and what features your skill set, your passion the best. It is
completely.
simple. You just can't see it in the
Yes,
moment.
and just
In that
allowing it to,
moment. That's right.
yeah, it's very hard to see it, but
Mhm,
allowing it to unfold,
mhm.
and allowing yourself to step into it, step into your greatness, step into your yes, step into it, and be true to that. Yeah, that's very important. I'm telling my daughters that all the time.
That's
Step
so
into your
beautiful.
greatness. Allow yourself to be great.
That's
Mhm.
so beautiful. I was going to ask you, in closing, if you had any advice for our listeners. That might be it. You just said step in. But
Yeah,
there's so many different things you've done, and now you're working as a producer, writing
yeah.
TV and movies and all these different kinds of things, yet they're all connected, which is
Yes.
so important to remember. If you could leave us with one piece of advice for our listeners, what would it be?
Mhm. Well, I one question you did ask is what is success? And I would say
Mhm.
success is balance, peace, and security. not having security, which is, oh, is you can lose your breath. So I think my advice would be allow yourself to trust the process, be proactive, check yourself, be proactive, and trusting how things are coming to you, and checking in with your spirit, checking into yourself, and see if this is a feeling of yes, if this is like a yes, if this is your yes. And if it's not a feeling of yes, if it just makes you feel miserable, then ask yourself why, because you don't want to give up on yourself. You don't want to be letting go of an opportunity because it doesn't feel good. But allow your spirit to guide you to find your way, and be open and have fun and trust and be kind.
So
Yeah.
beautiful. But you're just this, you have such depth of knowledge and experience to offer anyone. And I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share your life experiences with us. I can't. I'm so
Oh,
blessed. You are such a gem and nothing has changed. You're exactly the same. So beautiful and so
mm.
warm. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Oh, I love you so much. And then for our listeners, stay tuned. We have so much more to come. But thank you, Jules, for everything. And take care of yourself. And we'll be in touch. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. Bye.